the date you filed, same thing applies. They can come after you for 3 years. The bottom line on document retention is, what do you need the document for? How important is it? If it's something, I'll give you an example. I got a letter from the insurance company that writes my homeowners. The letter said that my design for covering the glass on my front doors was acceptable and that I would not face a higher deductible in the event of a loss. So what's that email worth that I got back? It's worth a fortune. If you have homeowners insurance, and most of us, or at least a lot of us, have houses that we own, you know that your insurance company on wind damage from hurricanes can be a deductible of anything from 2 to 15%. So if you have a $100,000 loss and it's a 15%, wow, that's the first $15,000, or more than that actually. If your house is worth $500,000, it would be $75,000 is your deductible. So that's a definite keeper. How do you keep documents for safekeeping? I have at least 3 backups to my computerized documents, and I scan any document that is really important. And I have a flash drive. And when I travel, that flash drive goes in my pocket. God forbid something happens at the house and my computer's gone, my hard drives, and I have 3 external hard drives, and they're gone, I still have it all on the flash drive. Your insurance policy on your house. How long do you keep that? Most insurance is written for 1 year. Then you get a new policy. About 30 days after the new policy, you can get rid of the old one if you don't have a claim. Look at the document, decide how important is it. A contract, especially an ongoing contract for somebody who, for instance, is in the business of buying goods from a vendor and then reselling them. You have ongoing business, it may be years and years and years. I sat down with a potential client about 6 weeks ago at another attorney's office. They had bought what it amounts to a franchise. They didn't have a franchise agreement. Oh, we only signed the one, and the other person kept it, and now we can't find them. If you sign it, you get a copy of it, with an original signature of the other party, not a photocopy. Sign things in blue ink, because with the state of the art of copiers today, it is very hard on black ink to determine if you have an original or a copy. The only other thing I would suggest is, if anybody really is interested, the material on the table is available. It's important, even if you're no longer working, you're retired, how long do you keep the things you get? How long do you have emails sitting on your computer, taking up space? Set up subdirectories for emails based on the type of document that it is. And in some, for instance, for lawyers, even though the bar says that after 6 years or 7 years we are allowed to get rid of our files, if it's on my computer, in other words, it was either scanned or originated on the computer, I keep it forever. I mean, Ron knows we're professional pack rats. And I mean, it is important. I've had a client come back to me. We did a settlement. It was my largest client. We did a settlement of a litigation matter, and he needed a copy. He couldn't find his. I printed it out with his signature on it. Not an original, a copy. But I gave them a declaration from me that that was a copy of the original that I personally made. So think about your documents. Keep them as long as they are needed, and then add a year onto that. So your tax return that you file this coming, let's say you actually filed it on April 15th of 2012. Add 3 years, 2015. Add 1 more year, 2016. April 15th of 2016, you can throw away the backup. Keep the return, always. Keep the W-2s, always. I have tax returns going back, I hate to say this, the first one I ever filed in 1967. Takes up space, so what? If I ever need it, I've got it. Questions?
So the statutes of limitation on taxes, if it's less than 25% overstated or understated, whichever the case may be, it's 3 years. If it's more than 25%, it's 6 years. If you don't file, there's no statute.
Correct. Most people are not worried about, oh my God, the statute of limitations is 3 years and I over-filed. You can still go back and file to get your money back from the IRS. It's they can't come after you. If you don't do this, by the way, please check that form you get from Social Security to see that they have the right amounts for the different years they're reporting, because when you go on Social Security, that determines how much money you get paid each month. I have a mistake on mine, and I've been unable to get it corrected, but it cost me less than $1 a month. Bruce?
Good. What happens if there's some dispute as whether it's 25% up or more? In other words, you talk about different filing periods. Let's assume that you're roughly 25%. And who decides whether it's 3 or 6 years? And, you know.
That'll be decided by a judge or a hearing officer. But remember, the IRS is the one that first starts this process. And if they look at the reported income from W-2s and 1099s, they look at the business you're in. For instance, somebody works in a business where there's a lot of tipping, a hairdresser, a waiter. They have guidelines. I mean, the IRS has been at this long enough, it is easy for them to say, okay, someone working in this type of a position generally makes X, and you're filing half of X. They're going to take a look. And not every audit's a bad thing. I moved twice in 1 year. I got an audit. Why did I have moving expenses twice? I went in, I explained it. They said, fine, good, we're done. It's only bad when you owe them.
Why is it with the internal, with every other process of law, you're innocent until proven guilty except the internal record? Why is that?
Because they know you, David.
Right.
It looks that way. I had a client up north who had an agent from IRS who looked to all effect that they were out to sink the client. Ultimately, the agent was proven wrong. What happened? The agent got to the office and was snubbed by the client and made to sit for an hour and a half. Agent got really ticked off. And then went after the client like they were Al Capone. And you all know, by the way, today is the day that Al Capone was actually found guilty of tax evasion and sentenced to 11 years in Alcatraz. But treat those people like they are, I was going to say, your brother or sister, but family relationships sometimes are strange. You treat them with respect. You don't make them wait. They'll make you wait if it's not an in-office. If it's in their office for the audit, that's fine. And never mouth off. I no longer practice tax law. Originally, that's what I was going to be, was a tax attorney. I found franchising along the way, and I liked it so much more that I decided when we moved to Florida that I could not commute back to NYU for my master's in tax. So I became a franchise attorney, and I've never looked back. Love it. Anybody else?
That's the reason why Publix has a no tipping policy on their front door. So they don't have to explain to the Internal Revenue approximately how much money people make when they...
And I still see it happen in the market.
Oh, it's gonna happen, trust me. But we were covering ourselves. We didn't want to...
Oh, yeah.
That's the policy.
Yeah.
The sign says no tipping except for David Cox.
There you go.
Bruce?
So are you saying that if someone gets paid by tips, that just merely reporting less than the expectation, I mean, how do you prove that? I mean, with all due respect, how do you ever prove it?
It invites their interest.
Yeah.
That's what you want to avoid. You want to be plain vanilla. How do they prove it? It's based on statistics. It's like in my area of franchise law, McDonald's has over 31,000 franchise restaurants around the world. You buy your beef, in the United States anyway, from a company owned by McDonald's. They know, they have the statistics to show, if you're buying X number of tons of beef in a year, that you sold X number of cooks, fries, and other food products, because they have all the averages. And that's when they start to say, we want to audit the franchisees' records. So the IRS works the same way. It's not a proven thing, it's just a presumption, which can be rebutted.
How do you rebut cash?
Oh, You move it from the right pocket to the left pocket? Thank you.